All right, Bears fans, welcome back. Bear Down, and I've had multiple requests to address the head coaching issue of the Bears, especially today as Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles sat down and addressed the media, addressed the fan base, talked about the search that will go on. It's not going to be a quick search. They're going to take their time. They're going to get it right. I'm doing quotations, they're going to get it right. It was a lot of hot air to me, if you're asking my honest opinion. I want to see the proof in the pudding. So I am going to put this video together. I'm going to show you guys my thoughts on the matter, but I'm not going to try to profess that I know who the next head coach of the Chicago Bears is going to be, because I don't. Nobody else does either. I'm going to lay out there the coaching candidates, and like most videos on this channel, I'm going to try not to get too speculative, and I'm just going to lay it before you who the top candidates are, according to Vegas, according to the odds makers, according to what's been out there in the rumor mills. I'm not an insider, but it's pretty obvious what the best course for the Bears would be, and I'll lay that out here. But as for earlier today, there was there was the press conference. It just started with Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren over here on the right. Ryan Poles was asked several difficult things. Kevin Warren took over quite a bit, gave a lot of older brother vibes, kind of protecting. Ryan Poles, it was weird because then he said basically this is Ryan Poles' decision to make, and he's over this part of the team, and it will be on him. But then Kevin Warren really kind of shielded him and showed that he's very involved in this process. Showed that he's more involved than he probably should be. But he inherited Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus, and so I think he really wants his thumbprint on this. So, a couple of comments here. Some of the bigger ones that are bigger tweets. These were from several hours ago. I did like this from Sylvie. Free advice to Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles at today's presser. Do not brag about the Bears' rich history. Most of the championships came in the 30s and 40s. Your recent history is losing and not hiring the right guys. Focus on putting every ounce of energy into changing that. That was pretty powerful in my opinion. Dave from BFR, the Bears presser was very awkward. Ryan Poles looked like he was afraid to say the wrong thing. Kevin Warren looked like he was the main guy, but kept telling us he wasn't. Just very dynamic. It was interesting. And then Ryan Poles didn't have a lot of it was very political answers, and we'll see what happens from here on out. And then the more Thomas Brown speaks, the more I love Thomas Brown. I'm telling you, this guy right here, Thomas Brown, is Mike Tomlin 2.0. When he speaks, you get those same vibes. No nonsense. Put your head down, go to work, take accountability, just shoot it straight the way it is. Much, much, much appreciated from this fan base. Unprompted, Thomas Brown, in his first appearance as the Bears' interim coach, takes responsibility for some of the late-game errors that Matt Eberflus made on his way out. Brown says, I am not exempt from accountability for those decisions. Thomas Brown taking 1,000 times more accountability in his first press conference than Flus did in 3 years, LMAO. So, interesting the impact Thomas Brown is already having. It's a lot of people are commenting on Twitter as well that they already trust Thomas Brown more than they trust Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles. So that's pretty telling to where this team is. We're kind of sick of the direction it's gone. We want to see a complete turnaround. This team, more than any other year, was the talented team that had the roster that should have taken us to a playoff berth. Now, it's not completely impossible. The cards would have to fall our way. We'd have to win out. The Packers would have to lose. The Seahawks teams would have to lose for us to get in. It's not likely. At this point, we're most likely not making the playoffs. In fact, we're not making the playoffs. So everyone wants to see that turnaround, and all that lies solely on the head coach now, which is going to be Thomas Brown for the interim. But he did make his announcement who the offensive coordinator is going to be on the interim basis. And this is from the video I made when Chris Beatty was announced as the wide receivers coach of the Bears. And now it's officially been announced that he is the interim offensive coordinator for the Bears, which I think is a great move. He's got good repertoire with the team. You can see over here in these orange bullets. He was with DJ Moore in Maryland when he was there, and then he was with Keenan Allen in LA, and now he's working with both of them. Good repertoire with the team. Everything you hear about him is very positive, so I don't see any negativity to Chris Beatty being named the interim offensive coordinator. I like the move. I think it's a solid move. Bears are elevating wide receiver coach Chris Beatty to interim offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator Thomas Brown was elevated to interim head coach. Obviously, we know Thomas Brown was just the offensive play coordinator, the passing game coordinator just a month ago, and now he's all the way up to head coach now. So Brown will still call plays, but he's moving down from the booth to the sideline. And then Tom Pellisario said the same thing, promoted Chris Beatty to offensive coordinator. Interim coach Thomas Brown says Beatty has been heavily involved in the pass game since Brown became play caller. Eric Washington will take over the defensive play caller. Richard Hightower remains the special teams coach. So not too many drastic changes there. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes and look at who the potential head coaches are for the Bears. Like I said, this is going to be more informative. So before we canned Matt Eberflus, before he was fired, over here on the left, this is from the 33rd team. This is what the odds were of who would become the Bears' new head coach if we fired him. Now we have. So over here is after. This is as of today, the odds, according to the 6 Point Sports on Twitter. I haven't verified, but I mean, it looks pretty legitimate of who it could be. So we're just going to roll with this because this is a good group of candidates. They laid out pretty well. But according to them, before Matt Eberflus was canned, Joe Brady, Ben Johnson, Thomas Brown, Aaron Glenn, Liam Cohen, Kellen Moore, Mike Vrabel, Josh McCown, Drew Petzing, and Brian Flores. And you look over here, excuse me, the list isn't too different, but Ben Johnson is now the most likely candidate according to them. Joe Brady from the Bills next, then Thomas Brown, the interim coach right now, Liam Cohen, Aaron Glenn, Kellen Moore, throw his name in there, Cliff Kingsbury, throw his name in there, Mike Vrabel, Josh McCown, Drew Petzing, Brian Flores, Brian Dable, and Marcus Freeman. You hear a lot of buzz the last couple of days about Marcus Freeman because his ties to Notre Dame, obviously Notre Dame's head coach right now. So those are the candidates as it stands right now. Let's just run through them. I'm not going to try to do something that's like predictive. I'm just going to tell you guys about these candidates, and then I'm going to say what my ideal path is, and that's pretty much it. So Ben Johnson, obviously, right now the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator. A lot of fans want him to be the head coach of the Bears. He would come with a lofty price tag, though. The rumors are he was commanding $15 million a year last year when he decided to stay with the Lions, and it's not completely out of the realm that he stays with the Lions again this year. But currently, since 2022, the offensive coordinator of the Lions. Before that, the passing game coordinator, tight ends coach before that. Offensive quality control, so he's worked his way up within them. And before that, with the Dolphins, he worked his way up as well. So very respected as a creative, young offensive mind. So I kind of have a headline for each of them, what they're known for, just as a quick tagline. We're not going to spend too much time on each one of these. Just go in order of where they're kind of looked at right now. Joe Brady, offensive coordinator right now for the Bills. He's been with the Bills in that position since 2022. He's the quarterback's coach back then, and then interim offensive coordinator. Then he got the offensive coordinator gig. He's known as a revolutionary offensive mind, great with quarterbacks and wide receivers. He's been known as that all the way back since LSU, maybe even before then, but then with the Panthers and then the Bills. Worked a lot with, obviously, Josh Allen. So that's what he's known for. Very respected as well. Next, we've got Thomas Brown, and his list actually is pretty long. I think most of you already know a little bit about him. He comes from the Sean McVay tree, the West Coast offense style. He's been with the Bears this year. Last year, he was with the Panthers, assistant head coach and tight ends coach with the Panthers. Worked with Bryce Young. Before that, he was with the Rams and worked with Sean McVay, so that's what he's known for. But he's a very respected players coach who takes no nonsense, very direct, and expects accountability is what he's known for. So Thomas Brown, and I'll say right off the bat, this is where I'm going to pause for a second. This is the most ideal path for the Bears. Obviously, everyone's going to be looking for the young offensive mind that can make their mark. I had it in another video, what Sean McVay said about Thomas Brown. Sean McVay said he has always been a guy that has had incredible command. He's been a great competitor. He kind of demands respect from people he's around just by the way that he carries himself. And I think he's going to do a great job. There are certain people, when you watch them, you're like, man, they're a little different in terms of the competitiveness, the spirit. They never say die attitude. And then just his overall presence in general is impressive. I think you guys will be impressed, and I'm happy for him for the opportunity. So obviously a lot of respect there from Sean McVay. And you always want to see the young guy come up, and you'd love it to be with your team. So this is the perfect opportunity. And absolutely, this is an audition. If he goes 4-1 and wins all 3 divisional games, or if he goes 5-0, absolutely. How do you not give him the opportunity to at least coach next year? And you're not going to tie yourself to an incredibly expensive contract. You can sign him to another 1-year contract and say, okay, we're going to give you a 1-year prove-it contract. See how you do. You've built rapport with the team. Caleb Williams loves you. DJ Moore loves you. This team loves you. Keenan Allen, all these guys love you. Let's see how you do from here on out. Excuse me. Let's see how you do from here on out. And then maybe even you get to hire your own defensive coordinator, Thomas Brown, in the offseason. See how the defense does as well. So it's a good opportunity for him, and I think that's the ideal situation here. So what am I pulling for? Yeah, I'm absolutely pulling for the Bears to go 5-0, for Thomas Brown to prove himself and to be that next guy that steps up. The next guy from the Sean McVay tree, the next guy that runs the West Coast office and proves that he's the guy. So that's what I would be rooting for in these situations. I'm not saying Ben Johnson right off the bat because he hasn't been a head coach before. I'm not saying Joe Brady, same situation, or even Mike Vrabel. I'm not committed to one of those paths. I have to see how the next 5 weeks go. So spoiler for the rest of this video, that's kind of where I stand on all of this. I want to see how the Bears do from here on out, and I would love to see a young coach, just like the Lions have had, just like the Vikings have had, just like these situations play themselves out. I'd love to see that happen for the Bears with Thomas Brown. I mean, is he Mike Tomlin 2.0? I don't. Nobody knows yet, but we'll see over the next 5 weeks. So that's kind of what I'm pulling for with Thomas Brown. I hope it works out for the Bears in that regard. All right, next up, I'm not a fan of this one at all. Liam Cohen. They've got him as the fourth best odds, though. But I really think he benefited from Dave Canales, and Dave Canales is clearly showing in Carolina that things are starting to turn around there too. He worked well with Baker Mayfield, and now all Liam Cohen has done to me is step in afterwards. Now, he is respected from the Rams and from Kentucky for the work that he's done with them, a lot of work with them. So obviously, connection there with Sean McVay. Dave Canales was under the Pete Carroll tree, so he worked under Dave Canales in Tampa Bay. So that's kind of where that all stands, but I'm not a huge fan of this one. This one's not my top priority, but he's known as a quick learner, so he's developed quickly as an offensive mind. I'm not a big fan of this one. If this one happened, it would absolutely shock me. Next, you've got Aaron Glenn. He's credited as a top defensive coordinator. An anonymous poll in the league, everyone almost voted for him for the Lions. He's credited with turning the Lions around, so a defensive mind, very, very sharp. Cleveland Browns 14-15 as the assistant defensive backs coach. In New Orleans as the defensive backs coach, and then did some work as an administrator, and now he's been the Detroit Lions defensive coordinator from 2021 till now. So he will probably get a head coaching gig at some point. Will it be with the Bears? I wouldn't say he's a front runner, but he's got good credentials and very highly respected as well. All right, next we go to Kellen Moore. Everybody knows him as Boise State's quarterback when they were the underdogs. But he's been with the Dallas Cowboys since 2018 as a coach, with the quarterback's coach. Then he was the offensive coordinator from 19 to 22. Moved on to the Chargers last year, and then they cleaned house. And now he's been with the Eagles. He's a young offensive mind. He's respected everywhere. So he's credited with a lot of the work that the Cowboys did when they were on good runs back in 19 to 22. He's also been doing very well this year with the Eagles as they had to turn things back around as they kind of had a collapse last year. A lot of, good weapons to work with. So, again, an unproven coach in my mind. I wouldn't want to take Kellen Moore, but he does have some respect around the league. All right, next, Cliff Kingsbury, one that's thrown out a lot because of his connection with Caleb Williams. You can see that connection right down here. Head coach of the USC Trojans in 2023 last year. Or I'm sorry, he was the head coach of the Cardinals and then went to USC as a senior offensive analyst. So he worked with Caleb there. His coaching record, though, up here, 28, 37, and 1. What he's really known for in that time was Kyler Murray was a two-time Pro Bowler, and now with the Commanders, again, he's getting some credit for his work with Jaden Daniels. So credit with bringing young quarterbacks into the league. He's also known for kind of collapsing the second half, becoming predictable second half of seasons. So everywhere he's been, he's kind of become predictable. He starts out really hot for the season, then kind of collapses because he doesn't adapt and change enough. So I don't think that's a good fit for the Bears for that reason alone. But he does have head coaching experience, offensive coordinator right now for the Commanders, but he's been a head coach several times at the college level and then at the NFL level with the Cardinals with, mixed results. Obviously 28, 37, and 1 is not the best results, but he did very well with Kyler Murray. So a lot of respect for him in that regard. A lot of people thought we would hire him this last offseason as we flew to him at USC and interviewed with him. But there was speculation, was that just to get to know Caleb Williams? Was that for his role here? And as we hired Caleb, it didn't make sense why we didn't hire Cliff Kingsbury. Really, as we look back, Matt Eberflus's hire was really a questionable one on several different levels. Shane Waldron hire. After that, obviously we kept Matt Eberflus, so I should have said keeping Matt Eberflus was questionable, but then hiring Shane Waldron, that was even more questionable, why we didn't go for Cliff Kingsbury or someone like that, but it'll all shake itself out in the end. Next up, you got Mike Vrabel, former 2001 Coach of the Year, and he's kind of known for his teams overperforming. So he's been a defensive coordinator and a linebackers coach several times, known for his work with linebackers. We can use some of that pop and oomph in Chicago, getting back to our Brian Urlacher type of style, and even Roquan Smith, it's hard to watch him on another team still, especially when we're kind of trying to do hybrids right now, and it doesn't fit our scheme. It doesn't fit what we're trying to do. Tremaine Edmonds probably needs to be the outside linebacker, put Jack Sanborn in the middle and get more of a thumper, more of a hitter going again. But either way, that's what he's known for, being a defensive-minded head coach, linebackers coach specifically, and his team's always overperforming. Regular season record of 54-45, postseason 2-3, so hasn't done much in the postseason. But his teams were never expected to do much, and they always overperformed. So he's known for overperforming, and he was a Coach of the Year in 2021. All right, next up you got Josh McCown. I'm not really a fan of any of these at the end down here. None of these I'm a fan of at the end, and I'm really only a fan of a couple up there. But Josh McCown, clearly very inexperienced, only been the quarterback coach with Carolina last year with Bryce Young, and then the Vikings quarterback coach this year, working with their quarterbacks, and I don't credit him with much of that at all, but many know and remember he was the Bears quarterback in 2011 2013 in various roles there, backup and starter at certain points. But Josh McCown climbing his way up, I just don't see that being the fit for the Bears this year. I don't see that as a fit at all. Here's a fun one, Drew Petzing. I don't see this being an option at all, but he's a quick-hitting opening drive offensive coordinator, offensive coach. Known for getting off quickly in games, getting quick starts, but sometimes stuttering at the end of the games, kind of the opposite of what the Bears have been doing lately. He adapts to his quarterback, so his quarterback is the one that he adapts to. He's been with Arizona, Cleveland, Minnesota with their wide receivers, so he's still a young coach as well, 37 years old, and young in his career as well, worked with tight ends as well. But Cleveland quarterback coach in 2022 and Arizona's offensive coordinator 2023 to present. And that's what he's known for, as being a quick-hitting opening drive, getting leads right off the bat, which is opposite of what the Bears are. So maybe that intrigues the Bears. We'll see, but I don't see this being an option for us. Brian Flores, four-time Super Bowl champion with his work with the New England Patriots, worked a lot with the Patriots, Bill Belichick in those years there, worked with the Steelers as senior defensive analyst and linebackers coach, so a lot of defensive knowledge to take from these coaches. Very, very knowledgeable, and he is, with the Minnesota Vikings now as their defensive coordinator, 2023 to present. And he's the Brian Flores defense. I mean, everyone knows it's a creative, hard-hitting defense. That's what he's known for. So he was the head coach prior at the Dolphins, 19-21. You probably remember the lawsuit he filed for discrimination. That was the big deal when he was fired in 2021, then wasn't getting interviews in 22 like he wanted. That's kind of what he's known for now. So 24-25 record with the Dolphins, and obviously they moved on to greener pastures, and it's worked out well for them. But Brian Flores is a really, really good defensive coordinator. So again, coordinator that I don't know if would translate to a head coach, but I do like Brian Flores a lot. I like his defense a lot. So he's a good coach. I just don't know how he'd translate to the NFL to being a head coach again. Brian Daboll, if anybody watched Hard Knocks, this is a hard pass for me, just from Hard Knocks alone. Just the way they portrayed them, and I know he's better than that. He's a strong offensive mind, assistant coach of the year several times, 5-time Super Bowl champion. Same thing with, you look at all the time that he had with the Patriots here, and then the Jets and the Browns, Dolphins, Chiefs, Patriots again, offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach from the Bills from 2018 to 21, then Giants as the head coach to now. And it just, same thing, 2017, 28-1. He hasn't commanded them winning. He hasn't been the reason that they win. So same type of thing. Why are we going to trade in, one thing for the exact same thing when he probably would have the same results here? A very talented team. Being able to have the opportunity to lead the Bears, I don't think you'd have much different results. So I'm not a big fan of Mike Daboll becoming, Brian Daboll becoming the head coach of the Bears. I don't think that's the direction we should go. And then last but not least, You got Marcus Freeman, head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. You can see his coaching career with Ohio State, Kent State, Purdue, Cincinnati, Notre Dame, but no NFL experience. So to me, this isn't the route to go either. It's a totally different game in the NFL from college. Maybe he gets a job as defensive coordinator if we're really filling him on that end. Maybe. Very successful as a head coach in college, coordinator of the year in 2020 in his time with Cincinnati, defensive coordinator, Notre Dame defensive coordinator with linebackers as well until 2021 when he became the head coach. So extremely disciplined. In fact, there's stories about him. He gets up every day. I don't remember some of you guys might know in Notre Dame, there's a mile that he runs, and he does it every single morning, and he's out there like clockwork. So he's just very disciplined, demands respect out of his players, demands them to respect themselves as well. So very good college. I don't know how that would translate to the NFL, and maybe players wouldn't see him the same way in that same role. I don't know. But the lack of college to NFL head coaching experience, I'd like to see more before we gave him a shot. If we want to bring him in as a defensive coordinator, if Thomas Brown really works out, does a great job, and he wants to bring him in and he respects him, I have no problem with that. In fact, their personality seems kind of similar. So it'd be interesting to see if he would do something like that, but bring him in as the Bears defensive coordinator, I wouldn't have a shot. I wouldn't have a problem with that whatsoever. But as I said, this is meant to be more informative. Not as much opinion, but my opinion is, of all these guys, if we were going to have one workout, I would really want it to be Thomas Brown. And that would be from having a successful year this year, having the Bears really run the table, go 5-0 or 4-1. 5-0 and making the playoffs would absolutely get him the job. 4-1, beating all the divisional opponents, I think that would get him the job as well. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if there's one coach that you prefer over the others. Obviously, I wouldn't have a problem with Ben Johnson. I wouldn't have a problem with Joe Brady. I wouldn't have a problem with Mike Vrabel. I would have a problem with Cliff Kingsbury. I wouldn't like that one. There's certain ones I wouldn't like, but I would prefer Thomas Brown to lead this team to victory and have us take off from there and be able to have success and have him retained for a year, kind of like Antonio Pierce in Vegas, but with better results and better long-term. It doesn't always work. When it works for just a limited sample size, can he keep it going? But the thing is, with Thomas Brown, he's been interviewing for head coaching jobs for a while now, offensive coordinator. He had the shot with the Panthers, but and the stories that you hear coming out is Ryan Poles didn't really get to pick Shane Waldron. These are just rumors, okay? This is Rumor Central. He didn't get to pick Shane Waldron. They went with Shane Waldron interviews, but Ryan Poles insisted on Thomas Brown, insisted on keeping Thomas Brown on, and it's almost like he knew maybe something like this could happen, and he wanted to promote Thomas Brown from within, and now here we are. Now, that's just rumors, but if that's true, I really have a lot more respect for Ryan Poles and how he's navigated this whole thing, because he might not have had as much control as he's wanted till now, but now is the opportunity for that to shine if that's true. Thomas Brown can shine through. The players already respect him. You see on Twitter with Quan Brisker and other players saying they respect him. Even DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, other players saying they really respect Thomas Brown. It's a common theme. This guy demands respect where he goes, just like Sean McVay said. Now, can he take advantage of the opportunity before him? This team is uber talented. So there's no excuses. If he wants to take advantage of the opportunity, you've got a tough schedule. You got to face the Niners. Yes, they're a little banged up. You've got to face all three divisional opponents. You got to face the Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers, and you got to face a Seahawks team that's fighting for the playoffs. And all of those games could have huge implications. So this is a huge opportunity. Absolutely, my preference is Thomas Brown to absolutely kill it, give it at least one more year. Then you're not locking yourself into a huge, long contract either. And if he's worked out 5 straight wins with Caleb Williams, with this team behind him, with everyone, I mean, there's good opportunity to build cohesion and momentum. You saw that with Dan Campbell in the Lions and how they ended, kind of poorly, and then they ran to the playoffs, and now they're making huge runs that everyone has them as kind of the favorite go to the Super Bowl. So there's huge opportunity with these young coaches, and I think Thomas Brown could be that type of coach that could rally this team, and it's a very talented team, and there's not many things that need to change into next year. A better defensive line, better offensive line, but really good weapons, really good secondary, good specialty players. Add another running back, add another couple players here or there, but you've got your quarterback of the future. You've got really good receivers. There's an opportunity here. So I hope he capitalizes on it. That's my point of this, is I would like that. But that's kind of a rundown of all these coaches so you can see it. we'll see what happens over the next 5 weeks and then into the offseason. It should be resolved within the next couple months who the Bears' next head coach is. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. If you haven't subscribed right now, I do appreciate it. Enjoy, and until next time, da Bears, and bear down.